Oh my god, it's not even close. It's just destroying him. Oh my god. Gloomgrave Village is home to a bunch of villagers that transform into werewolves at night. If you capture one of these villagers during the daytime with dominating presence and put them into a prisoner's cage, they will break out at night when they transform into a werewolf. If you don't put them in a prisoner's cage and just have them with you, again, they'll break out of your control as soon as they turn into a werewolf. Using this, you can basically capture a villager during the day and then lead it to somewhere with like a mob group you want to kill or a boss, and then as soon as night hits, it will get broken free from your control, turning into a werewolf, which is a pretty strong level 60 to 62 mob that can kill a lot of the early game bosses and even mid game bosses and mobs. Basically turning you into a zoo master where you can just use werewolves to kill things instead of having to kill them yourself. So just some notes on how to make this work. When the villagers transform into the werewolves at night, basically the position that they transform at will be where they essentially spawn or aggro things from, right? So if they get too far from that spot where they transformed into a werewolf, they will leash and go back to that spot. So really the amount of things that they can kill is pretty limited to the area around them where they transformed. Along with this, when they break out of your control, both the werewolf and the villager, if it becomes daytime again, will wander around a little bit within their leash range, although usually they don't wander too far. The nice thing though is that even though the villagers have to be low health for you to dominating presence them, when they transform it will be automatically put to full HP, and it acts like a normal mob, so after it's finished killing things, if it wins the fight, when it leashes back, it will quickly regenerate back to full HP, because that's just what mobs do. Or at least that's what it usually does. Sometimes it doesn't, I'm not really sure why, it seems to maybe be a little bit buggy, not really sure what causes that. So it is possible to bring multiple werewolves to places to have them fight together as they don't kill each other. However, there are a couple problems with it. The biggest one is that for every werewolf you need a full day-night cycle, so it takes a full in-game day for every single werewolf you want to bring to a location. This is because you have to dominate presence them during the day and then wait till the night for them to turn into a werewolf, and then to get the next one, again you have to wait for the next day so you can dominate presence another villager, and then another full night for them to turn into a werewolf. So technically you could probably kill like Solaris and Behemoth and stuff with werewolves, but it would take like hundreds of in-game days just bringing villagers over and turning them into werewolves. The other really annoying and hard part about using werewolves like this is that because they sort of run around a little bit and they're pretty aggressive to most things, there's a good chance that your werewolf is going to pick a fight and die, or when it's a villager, if it's against things that aggro villagers, it will die during the daytime when you're not around to protect it, when you're sort of getting the other villager or something. So you basically need to find a spot to have the werewolf spawn that's not close enough to what you want to kill so that it's going to aggro it while it walks around, but still close enough that it's within its aggro range so it doesn't leash whenever you try to bring it to the mob that you want to kill. So if you want to do, say, Behemoth the Gore Crusher, it's not that hard to bring every werewolf in because he doesn't aggro to the sides of his cave. You can just sort of put it in there like you can see here. But if you're trying to do, say, Octavian or something, which has a bunch of mobs in his area, and especially a roaming mob that roams directly around his arena sort of thing, it's going to be a lot harder to store a bunch of werewolves up in there. So looking at the actual uses for this then, first and foremost, obviously for any boss that can get 1v1'd by the werewolf, so anything say under, I don't know, say level 40 for example, it's a pretty useful, especially if you want to do them while you're under leveled and don't like have the gear to do them yourself. You can just bring a werewolf over and make them fight it and have them kill it for you. Even for bosses that the werewolf can't strictly 1v1, if you're struggling with it, it's still helpful because it can do the first part of the fight for you. You can basically get the boss down to say like half health or whatever and then come in after. Similarly to this, it doesn't even have to be a boss that the werewolf kills, right? If you want a certain type of material that you have to kill a bunch of mobs for, you can just bring a werewolf to you with your farming trip, and he can kill all the mobs for you while you sit back and sip tea or something, and then you can go and pick up all of the loot. If you're doing like a PvE playthrough on your own server, this is actually super helpful because you can just bring a werewolf to, say, this human militia camp here, for example, and since the mobs don't kill the villager during the daytime and the werewolf is strong enough to kill everything in that camp, you can just put it there and then leave and come back a couple days later, because every night when it transforms into a werewolf, it will kill all the mobs around it, and then the loot will just be sitting on the ground waiting for you to come pick up. Similarly to this, if you're on a PvP server and can't put it out in the open world to farm, you can just put it inside your base. If you have like a tomb room or something where you're farming bones and grave dust and stuff from the mobs, instead of doing it yourself, you can just plop a werewolf down inside of your tomb room and have it farm all those ghouls and skeletons for you. Just a note, if you are going to use this for clearing tombs, when it turns daytime and it turns back into the villager, the ghouls and skeletons will kill the villager, so you have to be a little bit careful about things spawning during the daytime or just leaving in there. If you want to just do it for a night to clear out a bunch, it's a little easier, but if you actually want it to be permanently in there killing your stuff, you do have to manage it a little bit more during the daytime. Another use, obviously, this also works very well as a trap room for defending your base. If you build a bunch of cages in a room, stick a bunch of villagers from Gloomgrave Village in there, at night they'll transform, break out of their cages, and you'll just have a room full of werewolves for invaders to try to fight through. Lastly, the werewolves drop pristine hide and bone, so if you wanted to get pristine hide earlier for some reason, I'm not sure exactly why you'd want it, you can get a head start on your pristine hide and stuff. If you bring a werewolf to, say, a high level mob that's going to kill it, then you can just wait for the mob to kill it and then go and pick up its pristine hide, which I don't even know if it exactly has too much use, but hey, if you want to get pristine hide earlier than you otherwise would be able to, then you can, I guess. Anyways, that's all for this video. I hope you have fun becoming a Pokemon master by controlling werewolves and getting them to kill your enemies. It's quite an interesting strategy, so have fun using it.